listeners, welcome to another interesting episode of Endpoint Pulse, and we are continuing with the implementation success stories episodes. So today I have a special guest with me from New Zealand. Lukin, please introduce yourself to my business.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me, by the way. I'm really enjoying my time in Chennai. I'm here for the partner meet for Manage Engine. And as he said, I'm from New Zealand.
Yep.
My main focus in New Zealand for Manage Engine is new business as a whole. So I take care of the entire country.
Yep.
And essentially I'm going out there and helping customers solve problems. That's really how I see it. So I know it's a sales role, but for me it's really about heading home and helping people resolve things that they're trying to work with, So it's a fantastic opportunity. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me on your podcast as well. Really appreciate it.
Welcome again. Welcome to our podcast again.
Yeah.
So you said you're a business manager.
Yeah.
So my understanding is you meet customers on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah. So I'm probably, I'd say, during a week, I probably meet with about 2 people a day, 2-3 people in person a day.
Right.
And for me, I think, again, it's really about, as a majority of the work I'm doing is around enterprise, right? And for me, it's good to get out there, meet a lot of people. We're sort of sowing seeds, right? We're making people understand, who am I, who's Manage Engine, what do we do? And it's been a key thing to be in front of people. If you're not in front of them, right, then they're not going to know who you are.
Exactly.
They're not going to know what you represent. So that's why I stay really active, and it's good as well because it gives me a lot of understanding of what's happening on the market and where the pain points are mostly.
So speaking about the pain points, since you take care of the new businesses, what are your day-to-day struggles or challenges when you meet new customers? How do you probably address when someone asks you for a solution?
Well, so I suppose when somebody comes to me, they're usually coming to me because they want to purchase something, right? If we're engaging in that way. For me, it's really the big part of it is how do we draw the picture, right? And I think the key is just asking them a lot of questions and learning about, you've got to learn about their business. You've almost got to embed yourself and imagine that you're working there.
Right.
What is the wide picture here and sort of paint by numbers with it a little bit. So, the challenges for me is really that, and it's how do I ask the right things to get the right information to give them the right solution, because we aren't just selling things for the sake of selling it, right? And I think that's across the board in Manage Engine. We're always looking, we want people to be excited about what they're working with. So we have to make sure off the bat we're hitting the mark, and so we can only do that through good questioning, understanding the person that we're working with, and understanding the business and the culture that they have.
Okay. So like you said, you meet with a lot of customers. On any particular day, or if you have to speak about some particular customer, was there any particular specific requirement as such which asks you to make a tailor-made solution, like something like a customized solution exclusively for them?
That's a great question. Generally all solutions are tailor-made, but I think a really good example is a customer that I worked with recently within New Zealand. They're one of the largest petrol companies, right? And so they deal with everything from the storage of petroleum, the distribution network of petroleum, and then the sale of petroleum at various stations and sites up and down the country. And we're talking about thousands of sites. I don't know if you get many of them here, but in New Zealand we have a lot of unmanned gas stations, right?
Yeah.
Each one of those is holding endpoints and assets, and so it was that was an interesting one because we're talking about a hybrid workforce of people that are working from home, working from the office, multiple office sites, and then just multiple sites in general in terms of petrol stations, right? And it was an interesting one because it was sort of a new challenge because they had a variety of issues, and we're still in the process of working with them. But the first place we started was Endpoint Central. That was sort of the driving place to go, because I think what was clear off the bat was with their recent moves to the cloud, they needed to secure the rest of their business. And I always think of, when I'm talking to them about Endpoint Central, it's really about, well, what sort of threats and what things are you worried about, and how can we build a wall around that and account for what's inside the walls that we built. So yeah, it was a good starting point.
Sure. So when you spoke about securing those endpoints, even a petrol station is considered as an endpoint because it's unmanned. So what made you think Endpoint Central is the right solution? We see a lot of competitors around who are in the similar market, but what makes you think Endpoint Central is the best solution, and what makes it stand out from the other vendors and competitors in the market?
Yeah, and that's a great question. What do you know? What the first thing that makes Endpoint Central stand out from our competitors is, and this is going to sound like a silly, simple thing, but it's the fact that it's part of the Managed Engine brand, right? The incredible thing is that when you work with something like Endpoint Central, you're sort of opening the door to being able to use a suite of different products to solve a lot of different things.
Exactly.
That was the best part, right? Because I'd done my question and answer with them, and we'd worked out, hey, these are the overall big picture problems that we're dealing with. But Endpoint Central, I mean, another funny thing was when we were trying to talk to them about pricing, right?
Yeah.
They literally had no idea of how many endpoints they had. So they didn't even know where to start when they were filling out information for us to give them proper pricing. So I just turned to them and I said, well, look, just install the trial, work out what your endpoints are, and then we'll talk. And it's I think the overall approach from a marketing perspective, and just the brand perspective, the fact that we offer things like an all-you-can-eat sort of trial where you can just do whatever you want, is fantastic, because we're saying, look how good this is. I know some of the things they commented on as well is it's feature rich, right? Very feature rich. Easy use as well, right? Easy to use, and it's very simple to look at and digest information, because we're talking about, when you're talking about that many endpoints, it's some of the, I don't know, I've seen some of the competitors, right? And you almost need another degree entirely in their product just to work out what am I looking at and how do I best manage this. So yeah, I think that sort of overall encompasses, in my mind, why Endpoint Central wins, and we talk about competition, and it's sort of a joking thing, but I always say I don't look behind in a race, like we're always going to come out the front runners, so let's just keep our head forward and keep on doing what we're doing,
Sure.
Yeah.
So to summarize your point, you would say, so there's a zero learning curve.
Yeah.
Easy to implement. It's like an easy interface.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What else would you say? In bulletins, if you have to give, if I was a customer, and if I had to just come right in front of you and be like, give me 3 points why I should buy Endpoint Central, what will be the 3 straight bullets?
That's simple, right? So if you were coming to me and said, why should I ever take Endpoint Central? Well, I would say, firstly, you're going to be securing your entire business in a very easy way, right? Quick implementation. If you're already unsecured and you've got you have no idea, I mean, how do you protect something when you don't know what you have? And do you know what I mean? So that would be the first thing that I say, well, look, you're immediately going to know what you're working with. You're going to immediately know what your threats are. Right. And Endpoint Central offers that in, just a seamless way. And the other thing is, again, it goes back to the amount of different features. The antivirus stuff that was added in recently.
The NGAV, yeah.
Exactly. And that's the other thing I always say. Look, this is a product that it's not it's finished, and it's a finished product that you can use immediately. But we're always looking to improve.
Yeah.
And Managed Engine is putting so much money into the research and development of their products to keep uplifting them. Yeah. So you're buying something that's going to consistently be on the cutting edge. Right. And then thirdly, price-wise, extremely competitive. And we all know that. And that's, but I think what people need to understand is that you take those three things alone, I mean, why wouldn't you buy it? It would be ridiculous to even look at the competition in that aspect, because there's no one that's doing what we're doing, particularly, like I said, from the consistent development of products. And Endpoint Central is an ever-changing, ever-evolving. If you go right back and think the early days of it to what it is now, and to think it's still going to continue to grow.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, to me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. But I'm super passionate about it, and I think that probably helps as well, or it comes across when I'm trying to talk to them. But and that's, as a salesperson, the one thing that makes our jobs easy is when we're passionate about the product. And I'm passionate because I genuinely believe that you're getting everything with this, and you're getting an extremely good product. There's just, sorry to ramble on, probably a little bit outside of what you were talking about, but yeah.
That's perfectly fine. So my next question would be, so as good as you implement so many customers with Endpoint Central, I've heard the fair share of nice stories from you, like the positive ones. But now let's take a quick reality check. So there'll be certainly customers who come up to you and say, you said all these things will be like nice, like diamonds shining in the stars, all these things. But were there any problems or any feedbacks about the product itself? Like this didn't work, that didn't work, anything as such?
Genuinely, I cautiously saying this, and touch on wood, I've had nothing as of yet. All in all, the feedback has been extremely positive. If anything, all that's come out of it is off the back of an Endpoint Central sale. I've managed to evangelize those customers, right? If anything, all we've done is convert them further and further into other managed engine products, because we talked to that customer we're talking about, right? So they just moved to the cloud. They wanted something to secure their endpoints. After that, we were like, what are you doing with your cloud? How are you monitoring that? How is that safe? How is that secure? And they've purchased Site 24/7. We're currently working with them as well around ID 360. And they're excited for me to come back from this trip, because I'm going to then talk to them about what I've learned about ID 360, the new changes that are coming in. They're really interested in PAM, but they want it on the cloud, and we know there's a roadmap for that. So look, I'm not being disingenuous, being 100% honest. As of yet, I haven't had negative feedback about the product, and I hope that continues. So I hope everyone here is working hard.
I really hope that just keeps continuing. So from what you answered, so now we are moving towards the cloud platform. So before I head on to the cloud question, which one do you prefer to work at? Like, say, for example, do you like to work at home, or do you like to work at office, or how do you prefer working?
Well, I do about 2 to 3 meetings a day. I'm on the road.
So very much hybrid.
So I'm very hybrid. I love going into the office when I need to, right? And getting a chance to socialize and meet with my colleagues. But then, I do a lot of work at home. I usually, like, if I've got a meeting in the morning, I sort of get up a few hours earlier, do my day-to-day duties and everything, go out, do my meetings, and then at the end of the day, I have a few extra hours. So I'm very remote in terms of being hybrid about that, It's not a choice. I probably prefer to be in the office a bit more often. But necessity rules in some aspects of your life, so you just have to deal with it, right? Although I've got a third kid on the way, so if I can get out of the house more often and back into the office more later this year, then that'll.
So just like how you like to work remote, like you prefer to go to the office, however your work nature requires you to work hybrid, so will be your customers. I won't say everyone, but a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the most, and this is what this is why I think 2 products that I've sort of called out from Managed Engine, in my opinion, that are going to be very big in 2024 is Endpoint Central and Site 24/7. Endpoint Central, the reason I think that's continuous growing spaces.
Yeah.
Look, we all know what happened 2020, COVID, everyone went home and started working from home.
Right.
I think what we expected was there to be a rush back to the office, but what we've seen is the opposite in most cases.
Quite the opposite.
Hugely split, and to the point now where we have, in New Zealand particularly, a lot of people moved 2-3 hours away from wherever their central. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the reason that Endpoint Central is just an obvious choice of a product to be pushing at the moment, because it helps that scenario for businesses, right? And that is, again, we talk about solutions, right? A lot of them are saying, we've got close to 1,000 employees who are working from home, sometimes in the office, sometimes at home.
Yeah.
How are we protecting them, not just when they're here, but when they're outside, And this is where Endpoint Central is really an easy choice. And as I said, it's one of the better products it's the best product on the market in terms of endpoints at the moment, in my opinion.
Okay. I'll take your opinion.
It's a pretty good opinion.
Yeah, it's a pretty good opinion. Yeah.
You should trust it.
Why would I oppose it? Yeah. so that being said, so what would be the ratio of the on-prem migration to cloud? Like, where do you see it in New Zealand?
So I can talk a little bit about this. So previous to my work that I'm doing at the moment, Manage Engine, I was working in the cloud and security consulting space within Australia and New Zealand. And about five years ago, the digital transformation began in Australia and New Zealand, and they really went headfirst into it. I would say, at this point, you're probably looking at about 90% plus of businesses either are on the cloud completely or at least have a partial cloud presence, right? And the 10% that aren't using the cloud at all, they are generally in areas where they have problems around data sovereignty, government, and I suppose obvious businesses where they just don't really have the scalability to have to move to the cloud at this time, which is strange because it would still be cheaper even if they're a smaller business.
So what would be your advice for them? Like, few companies tend to remain traditional. They don't want to adapt to the hybrid structure. They just want people to come into the offices. Certainly not everyone would like to move to cloud. So what would be your advice if you have to meet a customer that way? So if they say, no, I just want to remain on-prem, I don't want to move to cloud.
Well, we've got to I'm like, we can cover you on-prem as well. I mean, look, I'm not here to, and I'm not someone that specifically is a cloud evangelist, right? I think I always find it a bit funny because I think when a lot of directors in New Zealand or CEOs were calling for a move to the cloud, I think their expectation was that it was just this mystical thing above them where all their data went. In reality, it's just an on-prem hosting that isn't yours and it is, in a different area and probably a little bit more secure and better equipment. I think if you haven't moved to the cloud yet though, and you are working with a hybrid workforce, you're you're always going to be at a disadvantage, right? Everything's going to be harder. Information sharing is going to be harder. Getting the right applications and patching them, and then the other thing is you've got multiple mobile devices. You've got it's just endless, right? And you think of how many devices that employees have now. I mean, it used to be just you had a computer that was at a desk connected to the wall. Now most of us, you were using a laptop here. Most of us are. I've got my phone in my pocket, and so. I think for businesses, it's really a matter of if you're going to go to the cloud, you should do it, especially if you're working in a hybrid model. And if you are wanting to protect all your various endpoints, then you should be on Manage Engine's Endpoint Central. So like I said, I think there's going to be one day a little bit of a shift where we sort of balance out between on-prem and cloud. I think. And one of the hard things is, and this is something I dealt with this customer recently, they just moved to the cloud, right? They wanted to know not only what are we using from an asset point of view, but they also wanted to know what sort of costs are they incurring that they don't need to be incurring, how much of their cloud do they need to be using, sort of, I mean, this was a really interesting one, right? Because like I said, it led to a customer now who is through and through a managed engine machine, and they just want to consume whatever we're throwing out there. But for good reason, right? So for good reason, good products. But yeah, that's, sorry, again, I've gone way off. But I always love a good ramble.
Yeah, sure. Like I have one last question,
Yeah.
or maybe two.
Yeah, go for it.
We were speaking about cloud. So different countries have different compliances when it comes to cloud.
Yeah.
So for instance, let's take Middle East.
Yeah.
Dubai have their own compliance laws. Like each emirate in UAE has their own compliance, security compliance, cloud compliance. On the other hand, Saudi, which is again in Middle East, has a different compliance. So, like SAMA, NCA, there are so many different compliances. So they want their cloud data to be within the country. They don't want it to be migrated to different.
Of course, and that's where we end up with this sort of like data sovereignty issues, right? I think so. I mean, speaking about the cloud, and I suppose how, because you're probably wondering, how does New Zealand have, because we have the NZISM, right? We have controls. And again, it's similar to what you were just explaining. If you go to Australia, they've got a different set of controls.
Exactly.
Similarities. I mean, look, all countries will work together, and there's always something. I mean, I think Endpoint Central off the bat meets a large amount of the NZISM controls. I don't have the documentation or numbers in front of me at the time, but we went over this in detail with them, and I mean, I've got to say, like, that's one of the best things, right, is that Manage Engine with all their products is always pushing to make sure that they're meeting as many of these compliance controls and as many of these different, security expectations globally, which is not being done by a lot of businesses, right? Whereas Manage Engine has really looked at the entirety of the market. I mean, you talk about the Middle East, right? I'm almost certain that we're working to ensure that we're meeting every single control within all of the Middle Eastern countries. Asia, Africa, the Americas, ANZAC, the APAC region as a whole, right? So yeah, it's one of the things for us is where we don't have to worry too much about that, because you guys are taking care of that for us, myself as a business manager and somebody who's putting out sales, my main focus is just on the end solution, and I know for a fact that that's getting backed up. Yeah.
So my one last question.
Go for it.
So when you sell a product to the customers, do you think just about the management perspective, or do you also consider the security factors?
Yeah. So when for me it's really about. I mean, I could almost say neither in a way, only because it's the entirety of everything that what their needs are, right? I think I'm always wanting to make sure that what we're delivering on is meeting every single need of that customer, right? So you have to take in every facet of the business. The security part though is particularly important. I mean, especially now, I think the increase in cyber attacks globally is skyrocketing. Wars aren't fought on the ground anymore, they're fought over the internet. And my message, I think if I have one message to go back to any business that's thinking about using Endpoint Central or just thinking about securing their endpoints in general, like, now is the time you must do it. It's so imperative, and I think look, security is important to me, and I think it should be important to everyone, because you're risking everything,
Every endpoint comes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing is, wouldn't you rather solve these problems now and address these issues now than for something horrible to happen and for you to suffer a major cyber attack, lose a lot of revenue, put people at risk. I mean, we've had hospitals and things like that have been. Don't wait for it to go wrong.
Right.
Be preemptive. That's my one message. back to the world.
Thank you, Lukin.
My pleasure.
Thank you for sharing such a valuable information to us.
Yeah.
I think that was quite a 30 minutes with so much management, security, cloud, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I look forward to having you on another interesting episode.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Today we are signing off.
Yeah.
And that's Chad, and that's Lukin signing off, and
See you
we'll
later.
see you on another interesting episode of Endpoint Pulse. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.